Hey y'all, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I want to show you guys some very beginner level stuff with these Pebeo paints by Mixed Media, or Mixed Media by Pebeo rather. This is a set that was actually gifted to me by a Secret Santa, but I will have links to all the materials used down in the video description below. This comes with the Moon and Prism fantasy paints, as well as the vitriol and the ceramic. And I'm going to show you guys a couple of different examples of things that I've made using this. I'm going to flip the camera around so you can see the examples without me having to hold them up. So here you can see some of the different examples. This one was the prism mixed with some of the crimson vitriol. It was the prism in Buttercup, which I really like. Now the thing with these paints though is to get this effect you have to have the solvent stirred into the pigments really well. This is an example of one of the Moon mixed with the vitriol, which I apologize if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. This was another Moon mixed with some vitriol, and they actually have a product called Lightning Medium that it has a little bit of this yellowy tint to it, but it came out still quite true to the actual color. This I mixed in some different glitters and things. I really love those flake glitters. This is another example of the turquoise in Prism. And so let's get started making some of these. Oh yeah, and then these guys are some examples of some wings that I made out of polymer clay. And then I used the different effects. This one's ceramic with prism. This one is vitriol with prism as well. And this one's vitriol with moon. And so just some really pretty different effects. And then I mounted over all of these with Diamond Glaze. But you could just as easily use something like Easy Cast or ice resin. Okay, so the materials that we're using here, I have some little one inch square trays. You could use whatever shape that you like. I really like the square ones because I purchased them, and the cabochons that I use are round and these are square, and I didn't really think about that, but I was going to use them as nice little trays for like polymer clay or stuff like this, because it kind of changes up the shape of our inventory some. I have a few squares of paper towels just because I'm a messy person, and then I have two different sizes of bamboo skewers. Toothpicks are a little flimsy, but you can see I really like these ones for my initial stirring and pouring, because being thicker it holds on to more of the medium. Then I really like these ones for doing a little bit of detail work. I highly recommend this project for building inventory. You can sit for if you do like craft shows or sales or different things, because you'll be able to experiment with a lot of different effects, and not all of them will be your favorite, but they might be somebody else's favorite. So to start with, I'm going to use the prisms. Are my absolute favorite. This is what this color looked like on a black background. So I want to see how it'll look on a blue background. Or not blue, silver. Sorry, words are hard. Now these are solvent-based paints, like oil paint, so they separate. And so you're going to need to stir everything up really well. Really scooping down deep all the way into the bottom of the jar. And stirring quite vigorously. It's a lot easier now that I've used it already, but the first time, especially if you get a batch that's been sitting for a while, you can really have to spend a good hot minute stirring the heck out of these. Okay, so there we go. I'm interested actually in putting in a couple of heavy like zinc balls, like how I do in my nail polish, and then seeing if I can't just shake it that way, because shaking it with nothing to agitate it doesn't really do much. Like, it just kind of sloshes it around, but it doesn't get it really nice. And so there you can see into the jar. It's much more evenly mixed now. There's a little bit of a smell to this, not really bad, but if you're going to be doing this for like a couple of hours, I do recommend a well-ventilated room, or worst case scenario, overkill is never a bad thing when it comes to using a respirator or a rebreather or, you know, just some sort of heavy-duty face mask. Because if you can smell it, that means those particles are getting up into your nose. Now, the only bad thing about these trays is you can see the bail on the back keeps it from sitting perfectly flat. So often something that I'll do is I'll paint it and then I'll bring it over to the edge of my tray, as you can see here, and it just lets the uneven part sit off of the tray. But we'll do that and whenever we let it dry. So I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit and try to give you guys a good perspective. Stir, stir, stir. And now I don't do anything to prep the tray. If it were deeper, like a very deep tray, this is only maybe 2, maybe 3 millimeters deep. If it were like a half of a centimeter deep, I would maybe pour resin first, just so I'm not using up a ton of pigment. And I'm going to do this quite generously, because the more you kind of glob and let sit in there, the more pronounced your pattern is going to be. Sorry, I'm getting snarky with myself. I'm like, oh, I have the sniffles. What do I do? Work with, you know, fumes. Of course. And so I just used the tip of my toothpick or skewer to kind of blend it around a little bit. And this is something that, even just like this, I think it looks super pretty, but as it dries, it's going to be reacting until it starts to look like this. Like, it's going to get like some really interesting designs going. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this one off to the side, and then we'll prep a few more trays just of different colors and different things, and then I'm going to put it into a time lapse so y'all can I mean, not to be like, hey guys, come watch this paint dry, but it is actually pretty fun to watch, and I'm going to put it into like super fast forward speed to see if it has any cool effects. But you can see there's still quite a bit going on here, you know, with just the little patterns and stuff, and we'll get into blending here in a little bit. But something as simple as that, you can make and sell out of your booth or off your website, or you could put it into like a little grab bag or stocking stuffers. That time of year is coming up. So I'm scraping off as much as I can into the bottle, and then I actually let this skewer dry, and then I reuse my skewers, because I reuse it with the same paint. That way, if it does rehydrate at all. And that way I'm not going through skewers like a mad person. Putting the cap back on that. And then I think the next one that we're going to do, we can explore the ceramic and the vitriol. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing this correctly. This is a green, a chartreuse. This one is citron lemon. But you can see they're so dark. Like, does this look like it would be lemon yellow? You know, it's like they're super dark. So that's where we come in and use this lightning medium to help brighten it up a little bit. And so I think that might be what we do next. Forget I said anything about the ceramic one. So just taking the cap off of it. Now with the vitriol, it doesn't need a thorough, vigorous stirring the way that the effects ones do. So I'm just going to take this and put just a bit in there in the bottom of the tray. Excuse me. Just kind of getting it distributed evenly. And now let's do, where was it? Here we have a citron lemon. And here we have a chartreuse. And both of these are in the vitriol. I'm going to use one of my fine pointed skewers. And I'm just going to do a couple of drops. This really gets a nice effect with having the silver background. Working with these colors lost quite a bit whenever I had the black background. And I'm sure you would get a different effect even still using a copper or bronze colored, you know, a brassy background. So you can see how very dark that is on the skewer. But then we can take it and do a drop. Just tap in little taps of color. And now I'm going to take this and we can actually come through and maybe do a little bit of a swirl. Make an interesting noise on that background texture. And bring out some little squiggles from our blob. Like, this is really, I mean, do whatever you like, but you can see how much that lightens up and how much it changes. And so now from here, I think I would like to take some of this gold moon that I have. I really do apologize for the sniffling though. And I'm going to use another fine point skewer for this one. And I used these just the other day, so they don't have a whole lot of separation going on, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of fun to sit and just stir them a bit, especially if you put some music on and just chill out, wiping off a lot of the excess. And then, you know, I don't want to wipe off the excess. I want to just let it drop. Boop. Boop. And I'm just going to do 3 little drops. Boop. There we are. And so you can see how just in that little bit of time, the amount of spread that we're getting, gotta be careful to hold it level. The moon, it's reacting. It's, you know, gonna do these different things that it does and give us some pretty cool effects. And that's why I really encourage you, get a bunch of these little trays are super inexpensive. Get a bunch of them and experiment. See what you like, see what you don't like. Kind of go from there. So yeah, this is another one that I'm going to set just off to the side. Definitely a word to the wise, put this somewhere where your cat is not going to come up and just sit in it. Because, you know, cats, just, need I say more? There it is, there's our crimson. Okay, so now I do want to work a little bit with this vitriol and ceramic. The ceramic is a very, very opaque base, and this is one that we used, the ceramic in the vitriol and a moon, yeah, and a moon with. So just taking the cap off, you can see not a whole lot of separation. Stir, stir, stir. And I'm just going to do a couple of dots with this one. Just touching it onto the surface whenever it gets to a point that the drops aren't wanting to come off freely anymore, quite so readily. And I'm a really big fan of like deep reds. This one's a little fire truck red for me. And I'm going to take this prism in Buttercup. Now we also have a gold pigment vitriol, which that's pretty cool. But we're going to see how this reacts with the prism. Stir, stir, stir. Now So we can take that. I'm going to scrape some excess off the side. I just want to put little drops inside the other drops. Whoa, that was a whole bunch. Okay, so this isn't what I planned, but this is what's happening. And that's art. There we go. Class over. No. And so now we're going to come through with the vitriol. And you could mix this separately instead of doing how I did in the other tray. Oh, wrong way. This green one over here. Instead of doing like how we did that and mixing in the medium into the tray and then adding in the drops, you could actually mix this with the lightning medium in a separate container and then start applying it in. But I'm going to do a really nice dark red. I mean, actually, I'm kind of loving that, you guys. Like, not going to lie. It's making me super happy. Oops, drop in the middle. Drop to the side. Drop to the side. So here you can see it's starting to spread just a little bit, and so I'm just going to get this in there and fill in that little bit of the background. And I just want to see how this ends up reacting with itself. So I'm not going to stir it, I'm not going to anything. I'm just going to set this off to the side and let it do its thing. Up next, I'm going to do another prism. Here we have it in onyx, which is a really nice, like, deep, like, almost like pewter silver, like a dark silver. I like it. This is another one we're just gonna do. Now, also, though, to get an experiment with the ceramic, we have some white ceramic here. And these ceramic colors, to me, they're a little boring. But I'm sure they have a time and a place. I like bright, loud, busy things. And I'm sure there are some of y'all out here who can do some really beautiful, classy, graceful looking things that to me, I'm like, white is like the worst. But let's see what we can't do with this. So I'm going to use the ceramic as a foundation, as a carrying medium for our prism, because the more liquid that's in our container, the more it's going to spread. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to do some little drops and things and just let it spread and spider around. And somehow we got a dog hair in there. That's great. And so now, without anything else happening, I'm going to set this off to the side. Take that, abstract art. And so I think I'm going to leave it at that. And so I'm going to get the camera over these guys and zoom it in and see if we can't get some really interesting time-lapse video. Like you can see this guy, he's already separating out quite nicely. So let's put this into time-lapse and I'll meet y'all right back here eventually. So here you can see they've been drying for about 40 minutes. And while they are in no way like dry yet, you get a good idea of how the colors are going to be reacting to each other. I feel like the ceramics really overpower the other effects. And so I'm really interested to see how maybe adding in a few touches here and there of the new, like another layer while it's still, you know, at this point. I want to see what adding in another layer might do. So here I have my, what is it, buttercup prism? Yeah, buttercup. Stir, stir, stir. And I'm just going to put just a few little drops across the bottom on this one. with the ceramic because I kind of want it to look like fire. You know, because it definitely, you know, has that color scheme going on a little bit. I also noticed that my whole table leans very slightly that way. So I came through and put a skewer underneath that part of the table. And this is something that if you don't much like how it's coming out, you can definitely try to help it evolve a little bit. And so from here, we can now take it and maybe drag a little. That way it'll give us more of, I don't know, more of something, I'm sure. Wipe the contaminated paint off the tip. And let's give it another little glob right here. But in any case, I am excited to see how that comes out. I'm going to leave this one the way that it is because I kind of like that smoky effect. It's way different from anything that I would have normally done. So these paints I usually leave to cure for about 72 hours before doing any kind of doming over them, like how I did on these over here. Now on these ones you can still see it's quite concave. It's a self-doming glaze, but it being water-based, as it dries, some of it kind of evaporates away. So at least I think that's what's happening there, and that's why it kind of clings to the side and then scoops in a little bit. I really liked this one. I experimented with just putting in a little gear, a little metal gear. And so I'm just grabbing a few, and that's what I did with these ones too, with the polymer clay, is I let it cure for 72 hours. And then I came back through and used that Diamond Glaze on it. And so I'm going to demonstrate to you guys just real quick on, I think this one. I really like this one. So I'm just going to move the camera over. And I like the ice resin. Like, I like using that on this stuff. But the Diamond Glaze is nice because it is easy. No mixing, no anything. You just do it and go. Be sure not to shake the bottle. But I'm just going to bring it around. And we're going to have some bubbles to start with. That's just something that I've accepted as part of life. With Mod Podge Dimensional Magic or with this stuff. It's just like there's going to be bubbles, but I'm going to show you guys how to deal with that. Okay, so I've put a pretty generous amount. You can see it's quite milky, but I've put a pretty generous amount there into our tray. I'm going to close the bottle. Now coming through with a clean skewer, you can train it up to the edges. I just use my fingertip to kind of touch and pull out any of the bubbles. I like to get all the bubbles congregated over in like the same area, but you can just, so I pulled that right out and that bubble's still just sitting there. If you can't get it with your finger, don't be afraid to try different tools and techniques and things until you find something that is working for you. But yeah, just, and now I'm going to set this one down here on the edge with our other trays, and I'm just going to let that guy cure. But one layer is enough to me to make it sellable. This one has a little bit of glitters put into it, but it gives it just a really nice, very shiny, not perfectly smooth, because you can see the way that the light plays off of it. You know, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. I like that. So there we are. Just in case I didn't clarify, I let the Pebeo paints cure for 72 hours before doing any kind of doming or sealing or anything on them. And then I let the Diamond Glaze cure at least overnight. Like, this is usually something that I'll do the diamond glaze on all of them, and then I sit the tray on a leveled bookcase and just leave it there until like 2 or 3 days later. Just give it plenty of time to cure and harden up, without me bothering it, without the cat bothering out, without like dog hair floating down and getting into it. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of specify that for you. But if you use different casting mediums and different like doming mediums and stuff, be sure to follow along with the directions on the box, because I'm just kind of making this stuff up. They know way better than I do about what to do with their products. So yeah. Hey y'all, thanks for hanging out with me for this tutorial. I do hope that it was helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below. I really like this project for, like I said earlier, beefing up inventory for if you have a craft show coming up and you need what Randy and I endearingly call filler inventory, because not every piece can be your masterpiece, you know, something that took 70 hours and like, you know, tons of wire and tons of time. And we sell these out of our booth for like $5. It uses just a little bit of paint. You can get a whole bunch of them done all at once. We go through, and before I use them, like straight out of the package, whenever we get them, I'll lay them all out and I spray over them with PIM, Preserve Your Memories 2. That way it makes a nice little barrier so it won't turn your skin green if you have metal allergies. But again, if you have metal allergies or want a higher quality bezel, you can definitely make some of your own out of polymer clay, and we'll talk more about that in future videos. But I'm really excited to try more things with these Pebeo paints and kind of experiment and learn and share what I learn with you guys. So yeah, I really like this one too, with the little foil glitters in it. Oh, so pretty. But it's a fun way of experimenting and kind of letting the paint doing all the hard work. And then being like, oh yeah, I totally made this. I mean, because you did, but it's like, I didn't plan that. So thanks again, guys, for hanging out with me. If you enjoy my free tutorials and would like to support the creation of more of them, as well as participate in my monthly craft crates and fairy house giveaways and all of the different things that we do here at Back to Earth Creations, please check me out on Patreon. There'll be links down in the video description below, as well as, I think I mentioned earlier, but just in case you forgot, or I forgot, the tools and materials, everything used for this video will be down in the video description, as well as links to my Back to Earth Creations Facebook page, where I also do giveaways where you don't have to be a patron, and my Instagram, where you can tag me whenever you make stuff, and I can go and I can look at it, and I can click like and comment and be like, oh, that's so pretty, or you know. But I'm not really good at commenting, actually, but I do like to go through and see what you guys make, because y'all are super talented and inspire me every day. I know I say it all the time, but you guys really do. So keep being awesome, and I'll see y'all around. Happy crafting. Bye.